Activity Data API.
Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about our Activity Data API, and this is an API that we've developed recently, and it's what we're trying to do here is help you understand the engagement levels of email addresses that we've been able to identify. And so we are receiving data feeds as well as having sending and signal partners that provide us activity based on the email addresses that they are sending to. And so what we are able to do is help you identify some information when the last time we've seen a click, open, forward, or an unsubscribe from an email address. And these are all senders who are using things the proper way. They are doing double opt-ins as well as providing unsubscribe links. And so we do see the activity and they share that information and we provide it back to you. Activity data is really useful for catch-alls. It's really useful for segmenting. Especially if you are not familiar with your database or you've never been sending to them, or you had a company acquisition and now you want to check, you don't really have any insight to this data that you've acquired. Activity Data API is really a very nice API to use to help segment. The results come back in a number of days. So we will provide results back in the following formats. It'll come back as either 30, 60, 90, 180, or 365 days. And what that basically means is that's the length in time that we have last seen activity for that email address. Now, I just want to be really clear here and say that this does not mean if something says 60 days and maybe you ran your own email and we came back with 60 days, but you're like, I'm using my email every day. That's totally understandable. That's not the point of this API. It is not to see that it should say active in days 1, for example. No. The point of this is that we have worked with other people. We are not crashing into people's inboxes to see how many times they're logging in. We are working with providers that are sending signal data to us and allowing us to serve that back to you in a way where you can use it for segmentation and better performance in your campaigns. And so just because something says it was active in the last 60 days does not mean it's been 60 days since there's been any activity on that email. It just means that's the last recorded event we have in order to serve you back a proper result. So the endpoint for this is really simple, really lightweight, and very fast. So this is something you can use in a real-time environment if you would like. And to do that, you can go over to our documentation section and you can go to the Activity Data API and you'll get brought here. This is the endpoint. And if you would like, you can just copy and paste it. For sake of the demonstration, I'm going to use Postman here today. What you will need is your API key and the email address in which you want to query. To grab your API key, you will go to the platform and you will log in and you'll go to the API section, use and grab your API key and make sure that that active is green. You want an active API key. And then what I'll do here is I have an activity data endpoint. I have pasted my API key. And for sake of understanding how this works, I'm going to just make something up. Right, so I'll hit send. And you can see we don't have any activity on this email address. It's probably a good thing, right? Because this is not a real email address, most likely. So we have no activity data on that. And we're ultimately saying, hey, we didn't find anything. This does not consume a credit. There's no charge for this in any sort of fashion. We would only consume a credit if we were able to provide you back a found equals true and provide you back a number of activity in days. And so that's when we would deduct a credit for that. You can see if I go ahead and refresh, I still have 7,086 credits. Oh, sorry, 7,083. I've been doing some demonstrations. And if I go ahead now and put in, again, I'll query it again, nothing, and you will see my credit balance is not going to change. And then if I go ahead and let's put in something that's maybe a little bit more likely. How about adam@gmail.com? It's probably a real email. If I hit send, now I'm coming back, hey, there's activity is found. And that activity has been done within the last 180 days. So what we're saying is that we have a signal that is less than 180 days old on that email address. This should build some confidence around that the email is active. And again, it does not mean there has not been activity in the last 180 days. It just means that's the last signal that we have received in order to query this database for you to give you a result back. So with that, you can go ahead and query any email address that you would like. If we find something, we will go ahead and deduct 1 credit for that. So I will show you because we made 1 call. So I had 7,083 credits. I now have 7,082. And we only charge for successful matches here. So again, really lightweight, 182 milliseconds. I'll go ahead and query something else. How about Patricia at yahoo.com? Again, I really don't know. I'm kind of testing here. 180 days, we've seen activity there as well. 210 milliseconds is the response time. Super, super lightweight and very fast. You can use this in a real-time environment with no issues whatsoever. This is our activity data API. There's lots of documentation on it as well. Our rate limits are posted, and you're welcome to use this as part of an enhancement towards your validation or your data in general. Thank you, everyone.